The International Association for Near-Death Studies presents NDE Radio, a weekly exploration of near-death experiences and similar encounters with the other side. Now, here's your host, Lee Witting.
Welcome to NDE Radio with Lee Witting. Whether you're listening on TalkZone, by podcast, through the archives of our ad-free shows on our YouTube channel, or connected through the incredible content of our Facebook page. Our guest today, Carlos Vivas, a native of Venezuela, has experienced a series of miracles in his life, including a guiding voice, a life-saving dolphin, and a vision of Jesus that demonstrated how much God loves us, the importance of forgiveness, and also taught him how we should live our lives. He's the author of Help from Heaven. Carlos, welcome to NDE Radio.
Well, thank you so much, Lee, for the invitation. I'm really glad to be here. And it's an honor for me to be in your program. Thank you so much.
It's an honor for us to have you.
Thank you.
Well, Carlos, you grew up in Venezuela, and
Yes.
You were telling me that the school you went to was nuns from Spain. Tell us a little what that
Yes.
education was like.
Yeah, my school name was Our Lady of Rosary from Spain. The whole school was completely, everybody that worked from the school was coming from Spain. So the whole school was completely everything from Spain. So it was a really good school. It was a private Catholic school. And that's what my mom wants me and my sister, my older sister, to go to this school because my mom's always wanted the best for us. And at that time, Catholic school was the best to raise kids, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. They were very strict, you know, in the 80s and 90s, how Catholic schools were. Nothing like today. But yeah, I mean, I have a good time.
Oh, good.
Yes.
But then I guess your mother was worried about the trend toward communism in Venezuela?
Yes, she knew because she was working for the government that the communism was coming, and she told my sister and me to leave the country. We didn't want to leave the country, believe me, because, I mean, Venezuela is in the Caribbean Sea. I mean, half of the country is in the Caribbean Sea. And it was beautiful, but our life were in danger, you know? And then she had cancer, terminal cancer with breast cancer. And I guess God have another plan for her. And I tried to help her as much as I could, the way that I treat my cancer. And but she couldn't do it. So she died on December 7, 1999. And after that, I came to the United States. I came before here. And actually, I was here in 1998 for work. But then after she died, I just came back to the United States. Yeah.
Well, now, when you were 14, you were diagnosed with a form of cancer, weren't you?
Yes, it was leukemia. It was hard because it came out of the blue. I started feeling really bad. And I told my parents, they took me to 10 doctors. All the doctors, they did exams and stuff, but nobody wants to say anything. At the end, I finished with a specialist on blood. He was a hematologist, and he was the best doctor in the city. And he finally came with the result that it was terminal, and we came too late, and there was no way that I could be saved. So he told my mom, well, he's just going to have to go home and die. And that's how the miracle came, because in the moment that he came to the office, the doctor office, to give the result, the final result of all the tests that he was taking on me. He said to my mom, I'm sorry, he have 3 months to leave. And my mom like, what, 3 months to leave? And so my mom like, well, what are you saying? And in that moment, I heard a voice inside of me that said, he don't have the last word, I had. And I was amazed because I didn't know what to think about this voice. I never heard a voice inside of me, never before. And my mom was very strict, so I didn't want to say something to her like, look, I just heard this, because she's going to think that I'm making fun of the situation, you know? I didn't want her to slap me on my face or something because it was a very critical situation. Anyways, at the end, the doctor gave us two options after my mom cried for an hour. And the two options were, number one, go to Houston, Texas, and do a bone marrow transplant. And my mom asked how much it's going to cost. And the doctor said, well, you're going to have to sell maybe your house and your cars because it's a very expensive surgery. My mom said, will you save my son if we do the surgery? And the doctor said, well, it's going to be 50-50. We don't know. And my mom said, you know what? I don't like that option. What is the second option? The second option is going to Paris in France and get this formula that I'm working with another doctors and start giving to your son. At least you're going to be doing something for him, you know? So my mom took the second option. They brought the formula. I started taking like a little pills. It was like a kind of chemotherapy. Mm-hmm. I have to be on bed for 3 months connected to an IV. They put a cocktail of medicines on the back of the IV. And after a month and a half, I still feeling a little bit dizzy and bad. So we went to take more exams and tests. And the doctor said, you know what? It's not working. So my mom started crying at home. My dad was crying. I feel horrible because I said, God, I mean, what's going on? I'm being a good person. And why this is happening to me, you know? And I remember that I have an idea. We have an uncle that was rich. And I said, Mom, we have the uncle that's real estate and he has millions. Why we don't go and get some money, a loan from my uncle? And then we pay it through all my life. I will work. And my mom said, no, you don't know your uncle. So I don't want you to go and ask for anything. I said, Mom, but it's my life. And she said, no, I don't want you, please. So don't call him. When my mom went to work, my dad went to work, and I stayed by myself at home. And I was thinking, wait a minute, they're not going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to call my uncle. So I called my uncle. My uncle, I said, Uncle, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're super busy, but I have a problem. I have this sickness, terminal cancer, and the only way to repair this is a surgery in Houston, Texas. It's a bone marrow transplant. We don't have the money. Is there any way that you can loan the money to us? And my uncle said, I'm sorry, Carlos, I cannot do that. And he hung up the phone. As soon as he hung up the phone, the whole world came down to me, like everything turned pitch black. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'm going to die. So I went on my knees in the middle of the living room in my mom's house. I felt completely bad. And then heat came all over my body. And I said, wait a minute. I studied in a Catholic school, and they said there is a God, and there is a God that saves you if you pray with all your heart, you know. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pray to God. So I said, God, let's do a deal right here. If you save me from this cancer, from this leukemia, I'm going to tell the world that you're real, because I'm going to be a living proof that you're real, you know. Well, after this, I start praying and asking God, like, please, thank you for my healing. Thank you for my healing. And in my heart, in that moment, I feel that everything is going to be fine. And what I tell people that have cancer, when the doctor give you the test result, don't accept the cancer. Just say, no, this is not me, you know? Because I believe the cells in your body, when you accept something like that, it's terrible. But you have to have hope, like I had in that moment. And I just was 14 years old. And from that day, I started praying every day. And I start saying all the time, thank you for my healing, thank you for my healing, thank you for my healing. And I start reading books about how the cells heal the body. And I mean, I start praying and doing visualization. Nobody told me this. I'm 14 years old. I start visualizing my life in the future, going to the university, graduating, buying a house, have a family and all this. And 3 months passed. I still with the treatment. And after 3 months, the doctor called my mom and said, okay, it's time for Carlos to go and do the CT scan. We're going to see the results, how this is going. We go to the hospital. They put me on the CT scan machine. And then when the results came out, it was blank. So the doctor said, there is no cancer. It's gone. So my mom started screaming, like, oh, my God, this is a miracle. Oh, God, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the doctor had a bullet face, like all serious. And my mom, what's going on, doctor? I mean, these are miracles. And the doctor said, the miracle doesn't exist. And let me tell you something, lady. This is called remission. And remission is when the cancer disappears and then come back even worse. And in that moment, I heard the voice again inside of me saying, like, this will never happen to you again, you know? And until today, I've been free of cancer. And And I guess from that point, like I was 14 years old, I never said this to anyone, beside my family and friends and neighbors around me. And that's when years later, the second call came, You
Do
have
you
any questions?
think, yeah, do you think if you had told your mother when you heard the voice the first time that she would have believed that you'd heard it, that she would have accepted the fact that God was saying you're going to be okay?
Look, my mom was very strict, and I don't know if you remember the 70s and the 80s.
Oh, yes.
I mean, people was like super hard, and
Yes.
she's going to be taking this. I mean, you was more respectful, being careful what you're saying with your mouth, because your parents it's going to be hard, the response. And in that moment, I believe like it's better if I don't say anything, because I know my mom. She's gonna slap me in my face and she was like, "Stop making fun. This is real." And I just trying to avoid that, because my mom was very strict there.
Now, when she had cancer, you must have told her the details of the story.
Yes.
And she must have believed it, because it was a miracle.
Yes.
Wow.
And actually, when my mom, so everything that happened to my mom, it was elemental piece in my life, because the way that I treat her, it was like the first thing that I start doing for other people. So now after my mom passed, now is any neighbors around me or family or friends or anybody have cancer, I say, you know what, I take over. I help you with everything. With the chemotherapy, so I speak with the doctors. I know what's going on. I know the pills they need to take, because it's really hard. I mean, when you have cancer, it's like the whole world turned black, and people is afraid. But I just look the person that have the sickness and I say, like, look, let's fight completely until the end, And I've been helping a lot of people with cancer. So, but yes, go ahead.
And I think the fact that you had a dream vision of heaven, which we'll hear about later, is something that can also give them, like near-death experiences, encourage people who are sick and perhaps dying, that death is not the end.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That in fact it's the beginning of something much better.
Oh yeah, definitely. I always believe that is something after life, I don't know. I have that in my heart since I was a kid. I know that it's something more. I don't know if religion don't talk about that, or in the school you don't speak. I mean, you don't hear that. Near-death experience was a new term for me after my near-death experience, because I didn't know what a near-death experience was. Yes. So after this happened to me, I started looking help everywhere. And I was afraid to ask anybody, because you say, like, who's going to believe me? This happened to me, But thanks God, when my accident happened, that's my second story, I have a lot of witness right there, plus all the friends that went with me to witness the second miracle that happened to me. It was a lot of people present.
Well, then, let's go on to that. You and some friends on Memorial Day weekend, 2015. Rented a boat to go out to an island. Tell us about the story.
Yeah, so me and my friends, we went from Atlanta to Panama City Beach in Florida to pass the weekend, Memorial Day weekend. And after we drove for Panama City Beach for several places, everything was packed. I tell my friends, you know what? It's too many people here. Let's go to an island in the middle of the ocean. It's called Shell Island. So we went to this park, it's called San Andreas State Park, took a shuttle boat. They took us to the island. When we arrived to the island, the bayside was packed with people. So I tell my friends, let's go to the other side of the island. So we walked to the other side of the island. There was open oceans. And when we get there, I have a tent. So I put a big tent, and then I put chairs and tables. And I have speakers and food and drinks. And we stayed there from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. And around 4 p.m., my friend said, Carlos, we want to walk around the island before we leave. I said, okay, you have like 45 minutes to an hour to do that, because the last boat is going to leave around 5:30 to 6 p.m. So hurry up, I take care of everything. So they left. I was by myself. And in that moment, it started getting really hot. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to jump and I'm going to swim in front of my tent. So I'm going to be watching everything, right? So I jump into the water, and I'm not afraid to swim because since I was a child, my mom put me in sports. So my mom put me in karate, taekwondo, swimming classes, piano classes. I was on the White Voices too. I mean, for 10 years with my sister. So I wasn't afraid to swim because I was on a swimming team. So I jumped into the water, I was swimming, everything was fine. And then out of the blue, this riptide came under the water. The thing was, I didn't know what a riptide was. I never heard it in my life. I didn't know what it means, a riptide, right? So it was this whirlpool under the water that sucked me in. And the way that I explained to people, if you saw the movie Finding Nemo, you can see that this whirlpool take all the fishes and throw it far, far away from the beach. And this threw me like half a mile away from where I was.
Wow.
And I didn't understand what was happening. But when everything stopped, that I pulled my head out of the water, the island was like half a mile away. So like, how in the world I'm here? Like, I don't know what happened. Okay, I just calmed down and I start swimming back. So I start swimming back, like everything's gonna be fine. And then I pull my head out of the water and I'm farther. I was like, what? And I swim faster, and farther. Why? Because the ocean is still pulling me in. And after 30 minutes fighting, I start getting cramps on my arms, on my legs. And I knew that was the end right there. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what, God, I never in a million years thought that today is going to be my last day. But there is no way I'm going to get out of here. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for my mom. Thank you for my dad. Thank you for my brothers, my sisters. Thank you for everything you gave me. And I'm sorry if I did something wrong. In that moment, I heard a voice behind me that said, ask for help. A very soft voice. And I was like, what? And I look everywhere and I just hear the wind and the water. And then a few minutes later, again, ask for help. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, who is here? Help me. I've been here for like 35, 45 minutes. Can you help me, please? Nothing. Water and the wind. And then a few minutes later, I told you to ask for help. I was like, oh my God, okay. So I started screaming, help. Even that I couldn't barely see the island. I started waving, help. At the end of the island, one of my friends from the group came out because he felt something was wrong. This guy that felt that something was wrong 2 years prior to this, a very good friend of him died here in Atlanta in the same situation.
Oh.
In Lake Lanier. It's a huge lake here in Atlanta. And he said, when I saw you, Carlos, that you was there, I couldn't believe this was repeating again in my life. And this time I was making sure that you're not going to die, because it's going to be double on me. But anyways, the first time that this happened to him, he just froze up. He couldn't do anything. This time he was just running and he was screaming, I'm going to call 911. Hold on, I'm going to call 911. He didn't call 911. He went back to the tent and grabbed some tubings, went to the top of the hill and dropped the tubings from the top of the hill. And then, of course, the wind was against him and the tubings were back in his face. And then he's like, oh my God, this is not working, Carlos, hold on. So he ran to the other side of the island, bring a lot of people to the top of the hill. 6 people jumped from the rocks, from the hill, and they're on the way to grab me, right? And I was like, God, thank you. They're going to save me. Come on. Yes, come on. And when they were on the way to me, we hear a thunder, like 10 minutes later. And when I look back, it was a thunderstorm coming behind me. So the sky started turning black and dark. Wow. And it started like kind of raining behind me and lightning behind me. And when I look again to the island, everybody started turning around because who's going to risk their life for somebody they don't know, And in that moment, I said, you know what? I don't blame them because, they have families and they don't want to die here for somebody they don't know. And in that moment, I said, you know what, God? If you want to take me, I'm ready. I just want to surrender. And in this moment, I always said to people, how many times in your life you're fighting with your wife, with your kids, with your school, with your work, anything. And the only thing that you have to do is surrender and let God take over because you cannot do it. Like you have cancer or you have any other sickness and you're fighting and just relax and let God take over, right? And that's what I did. And in that moment that I surrendered, a huge wave came and crushed me all the way under the water. So when I was under the water, I open my eyes and I see far, far away this black shadow that's coming my way. So I thought it was a shark. So I covered my face like, oh my God. And I was just waiting for the bite. And then this huge thing came and grabbed me by my stomach and pushed me all the way up to get air. So when I get out of the water, what I see first is the tail. So it was a huge dolphin. So I grabbed the dolphin by the tail and I was like, what a dolphin. So I just started crying by the tail and crying, like, look at the dolphin to the face, like, how do you say, like, what in the world, like, how this happened? I cannot believe this, like, wow. So I just cried there for like 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, a feature boat showed up in front of me. So the feature boat said, son, I can save you, but I cannot get close to you because the waves are so big, I'm gonna hit you with my boat. So I'm gonna throw you a rope. So he threw me a rope. I start pulling the rope all the way to the boat. And when I arrive to the boat, the dolphin is still next to me. So I grab the rope and I get air like, because I've been there for like 45 minutes to an hour. Mm-hmm. And then the guy started screaming at me, like, what are you doing? You need to get in now. I said, sorry, let me breathe, please. I've been here for 45 minutes. I said, I know you don't understand. My body's sinking. I said, your body's sinking? How? I said, yes, my boat have a pump and the pump is stopped. And all the water from the ocean, the big waves that are getting inside of the boat and the whole boat is floated. So you need to hurry up. Go to the back. You're going to see some steps and you're going to jump in. I said, okay. So I go to the back. The dolphin is still with me. I see the steps. I jump inside of the boat and the water was like this. And I see the water everywhere. I said, oh my God, sir, do you have any bucket to take the water out? I said, no, I don't have any bucket and we don't have time for that. Please sit down here. So I sit down next to him. And they said, we need to get out of here. So he started turning the boat and getting out of that place. And then he started asking me questions like, are you okay? Are you fine? I said, yes, sir, I'm fine. Thank you. I said, okay, where's your family and friends? Everybody's there. What happened to you? I just jumped into the water and this riptide came and drove me all the way here. And then he said, let me ask you another question. Where are you from? I said, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. What about you, sir? I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, too. What part? I said, I'm from Duluth. And what about you? I'm from Norcross, and Duluth and Norcross and next to each other. I was like, oh, and we're neighbors too. This is, wow, synchronicity right there. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And in that moment, he's like, oh my God, look behind you. And as soon as I look behind me, he started grabbing his camera and he started filming behind me. And the dolphin was jumping behind the boat, following us all the way around the island. So when we get to the base side of the island, the guy said, okay, son, I have to leave you right here because I need to fix my boat. But if you want to see me again, every Memorial Day, I'm going to be here. And you will see my boat and you will meet my family. I said, okay, sir, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for saving my life. In that moment, I jumped off the boat. The water was low there. So I started walking to the shore. And as soon as he left and I'm walking, something hit my leg. And when I looked back, the dolphin was behind me. And I was like, what? The dolphin? Like, what does dolphin want with me? Like, what in the world? And then I started walking, crying because it was like amazing experience, right?
Yes.
And then when I get to the shore, I go on my knees and I said, you know what, God? If you save me with this dolphin right here, it's because you have a purpose for my life. I'm going to tell you something. From today, Carlos died into the ocean. The person who's coming out of the water is going to be you. You want Carlos? Was bring it on. Take over Carlos. But I give you my life, I give you my soul, and I give you everything I have to you. And in that moment, the dolphin leave, and in that moment, it started raining, and started thundering and lightning. And after that, everybody started running from the other side of the island. All my friends, the police arrived, everybody started hugging me, everybody started crying. My friends saying to me, like, oh, what are you going to say to your family that you died here? And we didn't take care of you, and blah, blah, blah. I said, like, no, everything is fine. So then the police are like, what happened? So I start telling the story, what happened. And they take me back to the San Andreas State Park. And I speak with the management and I told them, like, look, you need here to put some red flags saying like it's dangerous, you need to put a sign what is a riptide so people don't go there. And basically you need to be more careful. I mean, with the families that come here, today was me, but tomorrow could be a kid or an old lady, So after I said that, everybody asked me like, Carlos, where do you want to go now? So like, this was a miracle. So I want to go to a church and say thanks to God. So we Googled a church next by, and it was a church by Fatima. It's a Catholic church. So we went next to it. when we arrived to the church was closed. It was around 7:30 or something like that. It was closed, but next to the church was a little chapel. And the chapel, it was like a cave, and inside of the cave had Virgin Mary, and it was full of candles. So everybody that came from the beach, we did a huge circle in the garden in front of the Virgin, and we prayed. We hugged each other, everybody in a circle, and we prayed for like 20, 30 minutes. After we finished praying, one of my friends said, like, Carlos, what do you want to do now? I said, I just want to go back to the hotel, get something to eat, take a shower, and go to sleep. So that's what I did. I went back to the hotel, I did that, and as soon as I put my face on my pillow, I have an epiphany. I didn't know what epiphany was. So it was an encounter with God. So in this moment, I closed my eyes and I opened my eyes again. I'm on the third floor of a Carnival cruise, grabbing the handrails, and looking in front of me is the blue ocean, blue skies. Everything is beautiful. But at the end of the ocean, I see a big tsunami rising and coming my way. And in that moment, I said, oh my God, I'm going to die here. So I covered my face and I said, waiting for the impact, just waiting for the impact. 20, 30 minutes passed, nothing happened. And then somebody come behind me and touched my back and said, Carlos, open your eyes and look at me. I said, like, no, we're about to die. What are you saying? Like, look, a tsunami's coming. And then he said, Carlos, you're never going to die with me. I said, like, who are you? I said, look at me. So I pulled my hands out of my face and I looked back, and guess who it was? It was in my heart, I knew it was Jesus. He was taller than me. He had with a white robe. I couldn't see his face. It was light coming from his face. And he said to me, Carlos, just relax, close your eyes. And when I closed my eyes, he hugged me from behind. And as soon as he hugged me from behind, he said, 10 seconds later, he said, now open your eyes. So I opened my eyes. And as soon as that happened, in front of me, I was in heaven. And when I see where I was, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, this is heaven. Like, Jesus, no, I cannot die right now. I have a lot to do. Could you bring me back, please? And he said, Carlos, no, you're not dead right now. You make a promise to me and you need to fulfill this promise. And welcome to heaven. From today, you're part of me and part of all these people right here. From today, you start walking with me and walking with all of them. Do you have any questions? I said, like, yeah, I have a question. Where all these people come from? There were millions of people dressing white robes in heaven. And he said, well, they're coming from all over the world. And then I said, I have another question. When you come to heaven, what is the true religion here? And he said, in heavens, there is no religion. When you come here, the only thing that you're going to find is love. Love is the most powerful force in the universe, and that's what I'm going to unite the whole humanity in one again. Do you have any other questions? So like, well, no. So, okay, let's do a life review. So he hugged me, and we start walking in heaven, and he started doing my life review. And in my life review, I just want to tell you a little quick. It's just past images of your life on the moments that you change another people's lives, all the good things that you did, all the things that people feel bad, whatever you did to them. So in that moment, you're in a high elevated, conscious, like, you know that you did wrong, and in that moment, you feel like, oh my God, I did that and I did the other thing. But you're going to feel good because you know that you did a lot of good stuff too. So he just want to show me that. And after he showed me all that, he said, okay, Carlos, it's time for you to go back and tell the people what happened here. So he sent me back. Next morning, I wake up and say, oh, what a crazy dream was that, right? And then on Monday, I go back to Atlanta. I go to my office. I tell my friends there, because I've been almost working 20 years in my company, all the managers. I'm a quality assurance manager, and I have another managers in front of me. I say, guys, guess what happened this weekend? A dolphin saved me. And everybody's like, yeah, right, a dolphin saved you. And then behind me, I heard a voice that said, I believe you. And I look like, who? So when I look back, it was my boss. I said, oh, why do you believe me and they don't believe me? I said, well, out of them, they're atheists. I'm a Christian. Number two, I want you to go on Google and Google how many dolphins have saved humans through history. And then I Google it, and dolphin has saved a lot of people through history. I said, wow, I didn't know that. Then he said, now Google how many dolphins get killed in the other side of the world every year, and they're still saving people. And then I Google it, more than 100 dolphins get killed every year.
100,000.
100,000.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
They're saving us and we're killing them.
Yeah. That's what my boss said to me. He said, like, look, they're still being so honest and pure, they're still saving us, even though we're still killing them. And then he said, now Google how many people die in Florida by riptides. So I Googled, more than 100 people die every year. It's the silent killer. And then he said, now the last one, Google, what is the meaning of the dolphin for Christians? I said, like, what? So I Googled, what is the meaning of dolphin for Christian? And it's the hope for eternal life. The dolphin represents Jesus. Thousands of years ago in Rome, in Italy, they used to put on the catacombs dolphins around everywhere in Rome, because the dolphin represent the angels that take the souls to heaven. So it was like angels going to heaven, But who would have thought that dolphins were doing that? I was like, wow, that's amazing. So that happened on Monday. On Wednesday, my boss sent me to a customer house because one of my employees broke a lamp in the basement. When I get to the customer house here in Atlanta, in Stone Mountain area, it was an old lady. She was cooking some pasta, and she said, Carlos, I'm busy in the kitchen. Could you do me a favor? Go to the basement, go to the last room. At the end, you're going to turn the light, and you will see a gold lamp in the corner. I said, sure. So I go downstairs. I walk to the last room, turn the light. I see the broken lamp on a corner, but next to the lamp is a huge painting on the wall. And guess what it was? The same scene that I was when I was with Jesus in heaven. So it was heaven, hundreds of people, thousands of people in the background, Jesus in the middle, and below Jesus was the ocean, and in the ocean were dolphins. And I was like, what? Whoa. So this was very, very overwhelming for me. It was like, how in the world this lady have in the basement this painting? So I started crying, and the lady, Carlos, what's going on? Are you okay? Did you fell or something? Like, let me see what's going on. So she ran downstairs. Carlos, what happened? I said, like, excuse me, ma'am, but I'm sorry to ask you this, but where do you get this painting? This is impossible. I said, what are you talking about, Carlos? I said, like, I was there 3 days ago, and now you have this painting in your basement? Like, what in the world? And then she said, well, a friend of my family came here 3 years ago with a big canvas, and he did that painting. And we don't have any other space in my house to put that painting because it's huge, as you can see. And we put it right here at the end of the basement, but you can take pictures if you want. So I took some pictures, and that was on Wednesday. On Thursday, I called my best friend that he lived in an area here in Atlanta. It's called Woodstock. It was 1 hour away from my house. And when I go to his house on Sunday, I spoke with him on the phone before I go to his house. I said, like, bro, this is what happened. And he said, like, Carlos, you need to go to church. This is a miracle. This is a testimony. You need to tell people. I said, like, are you kidding me? I will never say this story to anybody. I mean, who's going to believe this? Are you? No. And it's like, Carlos, come on, you need to do it. Well, he was over an hour on the phone with me, and he finally convinced me, right? On Sunday, I go to his house. I took breakfast with his wife and him. I said, what church do you want to go? I said, like, any church, because Jesus told me that is love. So whatever you choose, we can go. So I said, okay, let's Google the closest church to home. So we Googled the church, and the church that came first was called St. Michael the Archangel, Worcester. So we go to this church, and when we arrived there was hundreds of cars outside. People were celebrating. So there was music, there was balloons everywhere. And we parked, and there was a lady next to us and said, excuse me, ma'am, what's going on here today? I said, well, this used to be a small church, but today they're inaugurating this huge church. It's like a cathedral. And you guys just came on time to see the whole celebration, the inauguration of this cathedral. I said, okay, wow. So we saw the whole inauguration. And at the end, me and my friends would speak with the priest and tell them that we have a testimony. And the priest said, yeah, okay, you can go to the stage and tell the testimony. So, okay. So for the first time, I go to the stage, grab the microphone in front of, I don't know, hundreds of people there, and I start telling my story. And when I start telling my story, something happened. In the middle of my story, a 17 years old raised her hand and says, excuse me, sir, excuse me. And I said, yes. I said, I want to ask you a question. I said, sure. I just want to ask you how Jesus was with you. I said, Jesus was behind me. While he was dressed in a white robe. Where you were, I was in front of him. Why? And she said, I have to show you something. So she grabbed the hair, put the hair in front of her. She turned around And behind her on the chair, she have a printing on her back, an image of Jesus. Is an image by Thomas Blackchair. It's called Forgiveness. I don't have the painting right here, but like I said before, I have to run out of my house.
Yes.
But it was exactly the same image that I saw on my dream, right? And I was like, that's exactly right. So everybody in church like, oh my God, you guys planned this. I was like, no, I don't know her. This is the first time that I see this painting. Anyways, the service end, I go back home and I Google this image. And I put in the Google, I put Jesus hugging a guy, pictures. So Google bring me a bunch of pictures. And when I see the picture, I click on the picture and it was painted by a famous painter called Thomas Blackchair. And guess what? Thomas Blackchair in the year 1992, he started doing this painting and he started doing fasting for 2 weeks, asking God to let him paint the image of Jesus, right? And after 2 weeks of not eating, just drinking water and praying, he started doing the painting. And when he's half of the painting, he said the Holy Spirit showed up and said, Thomas, it's a beautiful painting, but now you have to write a book and you need to explain people what is the meaning of this painting. So Thomas said, well, what am I going to explain to people? I said, well, everything that is on the painting is the darkness that we all have is in the back. The light that we all have is in the front. The love that Jesus has for us and everything else, the compassion that Jesus has for us and everything. So he wrote the book, and the name of the book is called Forgiveness. And that's the end of my story. So when I was in heaven, before I came down, Jesus told me, Carlos, you need to tell people, in order for everybody to continue living in this world on peace, they're going to have to forgive. Why? They need to forgive 3 people. Number 1, they need to forgive their parents. Why their parents? Because it doesn't matter if they abandoned you, if they hit you, if they didn't like you, if they abused you. They did the best they could to give you the best you have. Number 2, you need to forgive your inner child. Why your inner child? Whatever happened in your childhood, you was a baby. Nobody could defend you. You couldn't run anywhere. I mean, you was afraid. So it's not the baby's fault. So it's time to grab the hands of this little baby that is inside of you and say, you know what? From this moment, everything is going to be fine, and just give it a hug and keep it with you. And number 3, you need to forgive all the people that harm you in your life. Why? When you forgive your parents, you forgive your inner child, and you forgive all the people that harm you in your life, you're not forgiving them. You're forgiving yourself. From that moment, you open your heart and you let go all the hate, all the resentment, and all the poison that's been eating you for years inside of you. In that moment, it's like you have a string with a balloon and you cut the string and you're free. And from that moment, that's when Jesus told me, that's when you start living in freedom. You start living your purpose. And Jesus told me, you know what is the biggest purpose in life? I said, no, Jesus, what is the biggest purpose? Everybody's looking for a purpose. But the biggest purpose is called service. Why service? Because when you die, you don't want to take your car, your Bitcoin, your house, your money, nothing. When you die, you're going to take everything that you did in this world. How many people you help? How many lives you change? How many people you give shelter? How many people you give food? How many lives you change in this world, you know? Like Mother Teresa of Calcutta, Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, Princess Diana. I mean, they did service and their legacy continues until today. So the end of my story is asking people, what are you doing today to leave a legacy of love, to leave a legacy that's going to even continue living after you go after life, you know? What is going to be your blueprint for this world that you was here and you did something for others here? And that's my story.
Now, when Jesus gave you this message about forgiveness, was this the same voice or a voice that you heard again?
No, it was at the end of my life review. Yeah.
So this okay. So this happened. This had happened before.
Before I came down, yes.
Right. Now, since that time, have other things happened that seem more than coincidental in encouraging you to deliver God's message?
Well, after this happened to me, I completely it started looking life completely different. I wasn't, before I used to like nice clothes and nice cars and all that. And from that moment, all that, it lose all that, everything that was attracting me to all those things, the material things. And from that moment, I just want to connect with nature, because I felt from that moment that nature was God. So every weekend, I work Monday through Friday. So every weekend I start going to waterfalls, and I start doing waterfall chasing for 3 or 4 years. So here in Atlanta, we have amazing waterfalls. So I started going to the mountains, going to the ocean, and connecting with God. Just being silent is the moment that I feel that you can connect. Is the best moment that you can connect with God, when you're in silence with yourself and just listen to a waterfall. Is amazing. Another thing that happened to me after this experience was I start feeling energy. I never felt energy before. But if I go into a person's house that this person pray a lot, as soon as this person opened the door, I can feel a wave coming out, like a heat wave, like coming out of the house and hit me in my face. So before this person says something, my customers, I say, excuse me, you pray a lot, right? And people are like, oh my God, how do you know that I pray a lot? Because I can feel it. And when I start talking to people about my story in their houses, I start getting goosebumps all over me. So when I start telling my story and people start getting goosebumps, it's like a confirmation that the Holy Spirit is present and the people is getting the story and I'm getting the story. Another thing that happened to me, if I'm running to dangerous situation, my heart starts beeping really fast, and it's something that I cannot control. It just came like that. I can feel a person, if a person is bad, even if you see this person looks really nice and all that, but if my heart is like, I can feel the energy of the person. I can feel if the person's energy is heavy or if it's light. Same thing. And I think we all have this, it's not special, but it's intensified when this thing happened to me. But when you go to a house, you can feel if the energy of the house is low, or it make you feel down, or sometimes you go to another house and it make you feel like, wow, this feel amazing here, It ever happened to you?
Yes.
Okay. So this is started happening to me, and I start doing Food for Life. It's here in Atlanta. I want to do service to others. So in Food for Life, we have a huge kitchen, and we start cooking. You can go Saturday, Sunday, so during the week here in Atlanta, and we prepare food for the homeless. So we go to several shelters and we give food to homeless. I work for another organizations like Toys for Tots. I went to Mother Teresa house here in Atlanta. They have a program. They help 200 kids. They're immigrants from Asia and other countries in that side of the world. I don't know if you know, but here in Atlanta is the biggest place for refugees in the United States. It's called Clarkston, Georgia. And the nuns of Mother Teresa took me there, and I met like over 200 kids, and I told my story, and they have a summer camp for these kids. They don't have money to pay for this, but the community get together and give all that they need. So I get more involved with my community. I get more involved with nature. I get more involved to helping people, because my heart was like bigger, and I knew that we come here and material things, they're gonna go, but when you do service and when you help others, you feel that something inside of you is gonna fill you up, and it is something that money cannot buy,
Yes. And what inspired you to write Help from Heaven?
What inspired me? Look, one of the biggest thing that happened with Help from Heaven was every time that I was telling my story to people. One time I went to a hospital to tell people was looking for me to hospital to pray for people. So I was telling this story to this guy was dying, and he said, "This is the most beautiful story I ever heard in my life. Now I can die in peace because I hear this. I've been waiting all my life to hear this." And then he died, and that was like, wow. And it's not for me. I'm not the famous person here. The famous person is God, but it's not me, I don't want anybody to write about Carlos. Oh, no. It's not about me. It's about the message that I carry. It's like I work for USPS Heaven, and I deliver this message. You don't want to be talking about the guy who delivered the message. You need to talk about the message. And another lady, I went to a hotel in Panama City, like 3 years after my near-death experience, and it was the Hilton. And this lady, when I'm checking in, she said, "Excuse me, but you've been here in this hotel before." And I said, "Yes, but you have 3 years without coming here. How come?" I said, "Well, because I have an accident here, but I don't want to talk about that. Thank you." I said, No. I need to know what happened." I said, "Ma'am, it's a long story. You really don't want to hear it." I said, No. Yeah, I really want to hear it. This is the concern, when you are checking in.
Yeah.
And there was nobody around. So, okay, here we go. So I started telling the story. And when I'm almost finishing with the story of the dolphin, this lady started getting like a seizure. She started shaking. I was like, and I have to call 911. So 911 came. And it was very impressed for me because I never thought that she's going to have this reaction, And then when she come down, she said, like, "Carlos, you don't know what you did to me. This was a confirmation that I've been waiting all my life. I don't have studies. I mean, the only studies that I have is high school diploma. And you don't know who I am, but I'm the completely general manager of this hotel. And under me, I have people that have all the titles in the world. But God put me here because I've been following God, and He knows who I am as a person. And this is a confirmation that I need for my life. So I really want to thank you for telling this story to me. And please don't die with this music in your heart. You need to tell this to more people, And like that, so many times that I've been telling my story every day, every place that I go, and it's just to bring comfort to people. I don't want to die with that story inside of me. And I think it's time, after all these 2 years that everybody was trapped in their house, it's time for, not just for me, more people have more amazing stories than mine, but it's time that everybody get the courage and say, "You know what? Let me tell the world that there is more after life, there is a God, and everything's going to be fine, So that's why I step in and say, "You know what, let's do it,
Yeah. There are nearly 1,000 near-death experiences in this country every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And if everyone would talk about what they saw, what they learned about the light, about God, about heaven, about our future, and about the importance of love and forgiveness, we could change the world. In a matter of weeks, we could do it. If 1,000 people a day would start telling their stories in earnest to, say, 5 other people, that would spread. Those 5 people would tell the stories to other people. And right before, the end of that month, we could change the world.
Definitely. And that's the message that I want to give to people,
Yeah.
Like Jesus told me in heaven, I didn't get this math, but he said more than 98% of people around the world have childhood trauma. So you need to give this message. So people need to start healing this message. And we're going through a transformation in the planet right now. I don't think we're going back again after these 2 years. Everything is changing, and we need to change too. And we need to forgive in order to be free. And I believe that's really important. And after these 2 years, people get more aggressive on the streets, and people is like with more anger. So they need to release everything that they have inside of them, I believe that, everybody needs to come down and forgive their past and start living the now, the present.
You can't truly understand the importance of love until you first forgive those people that you are holding a grudge against. And it's such a relief to do
definitely.
that. Forgiveness is such a reward for both the forgiver and the forgiven. It's amazing.
Forgiven, I read the other day, I don't know who wrote that, but I read forgiven is to take somebody off jail, but guess what? You was the person that was in the jail, and you have the key all the times in your hand. So when you forgive, you release yourself for the jail that you put inside of yourself for years. And you've been suffering there for years. So from that moment, your heart is going to it's going to be better. I recommend to people to watch a movie. It's called The Power of the Heart. It's a documentary about how the heart works in everybody's life and how the heart is connected to an intuition and to God, and how the heart can feel stuff that nobody can feel. It's like when a mother knows that their son is going to have an accident, she feels it on her heart. When you go to a place and it's dangerous, your heart is going to feel it first, and you have a presentiment, something's going to happen, you feel like something in your heart. So your heart is like the GPS of your life. And like I said, other times, sometimes people in life, they don't understand what a lot of stuff happened in your life. It's like, why this happened to me? Why did I lose my job? Why I have to move from this house? Why my wife left me? Why this is happening? Well, everything happened because our life is like a spider web. We don't understand what's going on in our life, but then with time, we're going to look back and we're going to look every point in this spider web. It's like, oh, if this didn't happen, this has happened, I wouldn't meet this person and this person. Oh, now everything has sense, Mm-hmm. So we don't know what is God's plan. We have a plan, but He have another bigger plan for us. So yeah, and we're all important. We all deserve to be here and enjoy this life,
Along with forgiveness, talk a little about surrender. That's when your miracles happened.
Well, when I surrender, most of the time it's I just feel in my heart, that I need to release something, surrender for me is like you say, it's a gift that you give to yourself. Because, for example, I have a friend that she fight with her mom, and they were like 7 years separated because they're fight. And how many times, you fight with family and they don't speak anymore. And guess what? This friend, after 7 years, my friend had cancer. So her mom didn't have any other option to go back and see her daughter. And when she went to see her daughter, her mom realized, oh my God, I just lost 7 years for nothing. Because I could forgive you. It was nothing. It was nothing. So she was asking God to forgive her for what she did, And sometimes we get mad with our brothers, with our sisters, with our mom, with our dad. And life is too short, And then when you're going to see, maybe it's going to be the last time that you're going to see them if you get mad with them. One exercise that I do for forgiveness, and I did with a friend of mine, it was this friend need to go to California, and I was coming back from vacation, and she called me like, Carlos, I need to go to Los Angeles tomorrow. I said, okay. And the person that I was driving, I was moving to Los Angeles. Yeah, I know you're moving to Los Angeles. And I have a U-Haul truck. And this was a girl. I said, like, okay. And now I don't have anybody to go with me. Could you go with me? I was like, I can. I just came back from vacation. I said, like, please, could you speak with your boss? I said, well, you're going to have to put a lot of people to pray for that to happen because I know my boss. So anyways, she prayed. A lot of people pray. And guess what? Next day, I told my boss, hey, you're going to laugh what I'm going to tell you. I know I just came from vacation, but I need to travel from Atlanta to Los Angeles. It's like 5 days on a car with a U-Haul, I'm moving, and I don't want my friend to go by herself, so I'm going to go with her. So my boss at the end said, you know what, just go. You don't want to leave that girl go by herself. Anyways, on the way to California, my friend said to me, you know what, let's start releasing stuff that we have trapped in our life. I said, what do you mean with that? I said, why we don't start making some phone calls? Let's do this exercise. I said, okay, phone calls to who? I said, well, how many times in your life somebody changed your life, but you never told that person that person changed your life? So grab the phone right now and out of the blue, call somebody that you have 7, 10 years, 20 years without talking to him. Grab the phone and say, thank you. Hey, what's up, George or Mary? How you doing? And people in the other side are like, what? I just want to say thank you. You remember last time that we saw each other 20 years ago? You told me to go to New York and start a new company, and it was the best decision of my life. So I just want to say thank you. You changed my life, but you never knew that was you. And believe me, just that right there it is an amazing thing to feel, because you're going to cry, the other person is going to cry, you're going to feel emotions and love inside of you. And you can do that with your parents, you know. Why you don't call your parents if you're mad with them? I said, Mom, you know what? You give me life. You was with me all my childhood. We just have a little fight. Let's go and get dinner. Let's fix this and start over from the beginning, you know. And start forgiving your dad, your mom, your brothers, your sisters, your best friends, you know, and give it another chance, you know. That's the way that I see forgiveness, giving another chance to you and to the other person, you know.
Yes. Well, thank you. Carlos, we are just about out of time, but yes. Is there some way that folks that listen to the show could get in touch with you or find your book,
yes.
Help from Heaven?
Yes, this is my book right here. It's called Help from Heaven. And the way that you can find my book is going to my webpage. It's www.helpfromheaven.org. Or you can go to my Facebook page. It's called Beyond Near-Death Experiences, or Help from Heaven, a Dolphin miracle based on the book Help from Heaven. That's my other Facebook page that I have for people. But www.helpfromheaven.org is when people send me emails, and I respond to all the emails and all that. And I have you are like the number 4 podcast here on YouTube, and I have hundreds of emails every day, and I try to respond to everybody, and they come from all over the world. And just be patient. I'm going to respond to you, but just be patient, okay?
Oh, thank you so much, Carlos. Thank you for sharing this amazing story of yours. I'm sure our listeners are really going to benefit from it.
Thank you so much, Lee, for inviting me to your program. I'm really glad to be here, and I feel like 2 friends just talking here, you know, like we have a long time without see us, so it was really nice from you. Thank you so much. You feel very warm, you know.
Thank you. If listeners would like to hear this show again, or any of our more than 470 archived, ad-free NDE interviews, go to TalkZone's NDE Radio site and hit the Past Shows button, or go to our YouTube channel, NDE Radio with Lee Witting, where you can subscribe to and comment on the complete NDE Radio library. And be sure to check out our NDE Radio Facebook page. Just search NDE Radio with Lee Witting on your Facebook app. And listen again next Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern at TalkZone for more NDE Radio. I'm your host, Lee Witting, saying thanks for listening.